Hello, I'm Reggie Young. I'm here with Vince. Vince, if you could take a quick minute to explain a little bit about who you are and how you got started.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me on. We've been going back and forth between a mutual friend of ours, Mina Elias, who I'm now working with at Trivium. My background is, for people that don't know me, well, most people know me from Helium 10, where I went on board with them to actually launch up their PPC division. This was back in 2019, and so they didn't really have any PPC tools or expertise. So I came on board to help them build that out and, not only the tool, but also training and marketing and content. And when that all ended last year, that's how I connected with Mina to continue on and doing, some content. If anyone follows Trivium, they know, or Mina in general, they know he does a lot of content. So I've, come on board to help, expand on that. Obviously, primarily focusing on PPC. Trivium is a PPC agency, and that is my background. But I've been in e-commerce for almost 19 years, honestly. So my background is beyond Amazon, just standard digital marketing, email, social, mobile, a little bit of SEO, which led me then to doing the PPC on Amazon for some clients.
Excellent. And if you could tell me, I know you have a little bit of a travel bug and passions around traveling. How has like traveling kind of influenced your life?
Yeah. So I basically got my travel bug when I moved to London for a job. Actually, it was a digital marketing company, and I was in my early 30s, and I was working. And in the weekends from London, you can kind of go anywhere. You could hop on a plane or a train and be in Spain or Paris or Prague, within 30 minutes. So that kind of got my love for travel started. And yeah, whenever I get a chance, I like to head out. I was in Machu Picchu last year for the first time. So did that all of Peru actually for about 2 weeks. Loved that. This year, my big trip is in Australia, doing the Mount Uluru, which is the native people's kind of sacred place. I'm kind of visiting sacred places from different countries as a part of my travel.
Yeah.
Yeah. So each place has like a specific, representation of native culture that I love. And then also be in Mexico City, like we were just talking about at the beginning of 2024, which I've never been. Super excited. I've heard there's amazing food, and so any recommendations, I'm open.
Yeah, for sure. I'm a little bit lame when it comes to choosing food spots. I normally just do like food near me, then I sort by reviews and I look at the photos. And it's also how I order food as well. I just like when I go to a restaurant, especially if it's in a different language, I look at
Mhm.
popular, and I usually never end up going wrong there.
I
But
like to look at where the city centers are and like where the tourist areas are, and then I literally just walk out a couple blocks and I try to walk around there and I see where the locals are eating,
that's
and
smart.
that's where I go.
Yeah, that's hack for sure. I also like the kind of what you talked about, like traveling with the intention of seeing different like spiritual or like holy sites,
Huh?
and experiencing travel that way. That sounds like a very
Yeah.
interesting way.
Yeah. So next year's going to be 2024 will be the pyramids. Never been to the pyramids in Egypt. So, yeah, there's definitely, I mean, people do, the seven wonders of the world and things like that. So I'm kind of doing something similar to that, is actually the seven chakras of the world. So if you're
Mhm.
familiar with chakras at all, the energy centers within the body, basically the places I'm going are also considered chakras of the world. The first place I went to 2021 was the root chakra, and that was in Mount Shasta, and that's in California where I live. I'm in Southern California, but Mount Shasta is in Northern California. Um, and I learned there that that was a root chakra of the world. So I'm going each year basically to the different chakras of the world.
That's cool. That's really cool. Did you feel like you felt different at all at the root chakra place?
Um, yeah. Excuse
Felt
me.
that
Yeah, I
change?
definitely. Well, I was there on a retreat anyway. It was my first retreat, coming out of the pandemic and everything being closed. And I'd always wanted to go on some kind of retreat. It was yoga, meditation kind of thing, which I did dive into during the pandemic. I told some friends, well, when 2020 hit, I was like, I could either drink a lot or I could like start meditating.
Yeah, dive inward or outward, yeah, right? Type of thing.
Exactly, outward or inward. Luckily I chose inward, and so that's why I decided, I want to go to on a retreat when I can. And August of 2021 was the first one that I could actually find that sounded interesting. And I'm actually yeah, so every single year since then I've actually gone on retreats with them. So they're the ones I'm going to Mexico City with actually in
Oh,
January. So
nice, nice.
visiting some temples and things like that in Mexico as well. But yeah, that's where I learned about the chakras, and so yeah, it's an interesting, for me. It's a nice way to have intention behind your travel.
Yeah, yeah, I really love that. I feel like one of the unseen or less thought of benefits of traveling, it's obviously freedom, but like when it comes to personal development or any other aspect of your life that you really want to better, you like the world is your oyster, that aspect. So you're really not limited by uh obviously by location. You literally can go to the best place or one of the best places
Yeah,
for self-improvement or whatever you identify.
exactly. That's how I view travel. A lot of people view travel. I think there was a quote by Anthony Bourdain. He said something about you don't live to travel, you travel to learn how to live,
Mm,
something like that.
totally.
So that's where I like, because I learn. Doesn't matter where I go, as long as it's not my hometown. You learn from just different people, different ways of things. Obviously, different foods, different cultural beliefs, and things like that. And I don't know, that's what inspires me about traveling, is that
Yeah.
what can I learn and take home.
Right, for sure. And I thought about this as when I was like a few years ago when I first started entrepreneurship in a serious way. I thought to myself, man, the more I learn about like myself and business, other people, I gain a new perspective. And I thought to myself, the more perspectives or the more angles of a situation I have, the more I'll see like reality of what's real. And originally, when I first
Hmm.
started traveling, the idea was to, I told myself, quote unquote, collect perspective.
Hmm.
I've gotten like a good amount everywhere I go. But I realize there's always a ton more. But one thing I've really been like thinking about lately is I'm trying to do more self work than I've ever done. Um, I heard this quote somewhere, and someone said, some yogi or something like that. And he said the longest or the hardest distance traveled will actually be from your mind to your heart. And
Mm.
it sounded really basic to me at the time, but like the more I like work on myself, I'm like, actually, like there's something really deep and serious to this. But
Yeah,
I just want to
totally.
share that with the audience, and then also like mirror what you're saying of like just being able to go where I think no the tax guy followed Nomad Capitalist. He's like, go where you're treated best. And the same
Hmm.
can be said for like personal development or
Hmm.
business coaching, like that. So yeah, I
Hmm.
love how you travel with intention in that way. So
Yeah. Thanks.
yeah, no problem. So the next thing I want to talk about, so people who may be familiar with you, your face, Amazon, have definitely seen you on, the Ask Me Anything webinars or all the PPC
Yeah.
built outs you've been doing. I've been actually kind of curious as to like, when you stepped into Helium 10, such a big position, a big role, a big responsibility,
Hmm.
what are some things that you had to think about or challenges that you had to overcome as you step into such
Oh
a
gosh. Yeah.
have like, hey, we need this up and running. How do you build those systems? How do you work with people? How do you get
Yeah.
alignment to eventually get
Yeah.
connected?
That's a great question, because my background before Healing 10, I was just consulting, so which I'm back to doing, working directly with sellers on their PPC accounts. Uh, so I had come up with systems, manual things of ways of doing things. And when they approached me, I thought, cool, how cool. And I was already using Helium 10 tools to, keyword research and things like that for my clients. So I was familiar with them, and I thought, God, how cool would it be to take what I'm doing manually and build a tool out of it. at first I thought I was just going to get like a consulting gig out of it. I thought, how cool would it be to have Helium 10 as a consulting client? But no, they kept on me, kept on me. And I was like, but I don't have any experience with web development, right? Not web development. I do have experience with it because I've been doing, digital marketing for a while. That includes building out websites, but I've never actually worked with, coders, right? So, anyway, eventually I came on board, and yeah, it was a learning curve. It was I had to learn new systems in order to talk to developers. I had to figure out ways of uh, getting over my fear of being in front of the camera,
Yeah.
because I had to record all this content now, and it wasn't something I'd ever done before. So honestly, I think the the biggest driver behind kind of the challenges, I guess I could say about the role were that I believed in what I was doing, right? So
Yeah.
when you really believe in what you're doing, you can overcome a lot. So the reason I went to Helium 10 was, I was at a crossroads with my consulting. I thought, okay, I could keep going this way, or I could go to Helium 10 and I could help a lot of people, right? All at the same time. So that's kind of the thing that got me through all the learning curve and the fears of being in front of the camera. It's funny because they still have my old videos, but if you watch my first videos from like 2019, 2020, like you could hear the fear kind of in my voice. At least I can.
Mm.
But you keep doing it, and I just kept doing it, and I kept doing it, and you get better at it, and then obviously you get more confident. But I think the biggest driver is simply believing in what you're doing, and that is what got me anyways through that learning curve.
Mm. Yeah, I find that very interesting. I find myself in a very similar situation, a consulting role that started out, and now I've shown them a little bit of what I've been doing with AI off to the side, and I feel
Hmm.
like there's some. One of my clients is saying, "Hey, like, come build this out for us in a more defined way," and I find myself, yeah, I took a couple of semesters of coding in university, but I'm not a coder.
Right.
No, not a coder at all. But then I saw like a quote somewhere that like a lot of huge co-founders never actually of like SaaS companies, most of them actually aren't coders by
Yeah.
nature. And I
Hmm.
really like what you said. Like at the time, I was like, I have to just communicate the vision. But I
Yes.
really like what you said about if you truly believe in what you're building, you can overcome a lot of obstacles. So I appreciate that advice because I'm going to be holding on to that as I go
Hmm.
through my own little mini journey of that. Um, and so, as you have built out Helium 10's atomic profit tool, and you learn those lessons there, where
Yeah.
do you see PPC evolving on Amazon, for
Um.
in the near future?
Yeah. In general, what I see is definitely a movement more towards um, branding, any branding element, whether that be enhanced creative, lifestyle imagery. Videos are everywhere now, and they keep trying different placements for both organic and sponsored, actually. So I really kind of feel that, and I've had conversations with some other people too, and I really think that they're going to start. Amazon ads itself is going to start focusing more on brand registered sellers, the ones that can do
Yeah.
those creative uh, campaigns, which are sponsored brand sponsored display. You need to be brand registered in order to do that. I feel like there's a definite movement towards those types of sellers. I feel like they're going to get more and more support for those types of campaigns, and potentially less for the sellers that are not yet brand registered. So I think brand registry in general is going to become more and more important to sellers, and but beyond that, I think Amazon's going to continue figuring out the best ways to, and it's got to be a tightrope walk, because there's only so many ad positions you can put on the page before it starts getting obstructive, and they don't want that. They're really good about a good customer experience, um, but they're also really good at putting ads everywhere. So, but I really kind of feel like they're going to continue on that drive towards, how can we make it easier for people to do video, and um, play video, place video. I think video's pretty strong element that they're taking advantage of. And I think historically speaking, they haven't used UCG a lot, generated content. I think that's going to start shifting too. Potentially even seeing UCG type elements in ads. I'm not 100% sure, but there's definitely a lot of research out there that says UCG type content is pretty powerful. Most of the ads you see on Facebook, for example, are user generated content now, or UCG feel, So, yeah, I kind of see Amazon ads kind of moving more in that direct. I could be wrong, but that's the sense I get.
Yeah, yeah. I think that totally makes sense from my end. And I just thought when Amazon first allowed you to make video just on a listing, the
Mhm.
impact it had, to conversion rates on the listing, then you made high
Oh
quality
yeah.
video, and then you can talk
Mhm.
video ads. And then now it's like Amazon limits the number of positions on a page for sponsored ad, but they're not limiting the number of ad types for
Right.
sellers. It's like we have so
Mhm.
like seems like every new month there's like a new KPI, a new
Yeah.
ad type, a new
Yeah.
way of targeting, and
That's
this
the other thing too. That's the other reason. That's a good point. The reason I said that is because they are releasing more and more metrics that are kind of relevant to branding type campaigns. Share of voice, uh, impression share, things like that. So it's yeah, for sellers that aren't yet brand registered. Number one, get brand registered as soon as possible, and start diving into that. That's my biggest kind of suggestion for any clients that come to me, especially if they're not yet doing video. A lot of sellers are afraid of doing video. They think it's super complicated, but it doesn't have to be. I've got clients with like the most simple video that they have is the top seller, and it's literally just somebody using the product and putting it, it's a bike rack. So it's a woman putting a bike on the rack. Super
right.
short,
Yeah.
and it has the most sales. It's like,
Right.
and then they have fancier ones too. It's lifestyle images and things in there and some words and stuff like that. And those do well. Those do well too. And of course, every product is different. So I'm not trying to say that's going to be the case for every product, but you'd be surprised how simple of a video you can utilize that actually gets you good results.
Yeah, it's not often I have someone of your caliber in terms of PPC on the show, and I'm just thinking back to when I first learned. I learned Google. I started with Google Ads, then learned Amazon PPC, and then seen like the wave of different theories that were kind of pushed out to sellers in terms of like cast a wide net. They have all these different types of campaigns. 20 different automatic campaign strategy, all these different
Yeah.
things. It seems now like, post COVID, things being super expensive, uh, budgets being tighter, especially as
Hmm.
sellers, they're really afraid to spend money on PPC. I feel like a lot
Hmm.
of sellers actually don't have the budget to match their PPC budget to match the competitive category that they're in. So they're already kind of set up for
Yep.
failure, like right out of the gate. What would
Yep.
you say like for a lot of these other ASINs or even just companies that are trying to save money, right? Like, do you
Yeah.
would you say like would you recommend a standard like, hey, you need to have one campaign, like main keyword exact,
Hmm.
phrase separate one for ACOS for harvesting. Like, what's
Yeah.
the typical like
Yeah.
like what you call it structure, and
Yeah.
how do you leverage your split for video ads and what placements?
So, for basic campaign structures, something that I talk about a lot, I use to at Helium 10. It's even built into Atomic, the tool. If you launch a campaign in there, for example, it automatically launches an auto campaign, which I do recommend. A broad match keyword campaign. Doesn't have to be a lot of keywords. In fact, it shouldn't be a lot of keywords. But you want to have the auto and the broad campaign to do research for you, because Amazon's the best resource for terms that you might not think of that can create sales or product page placements, ASINs. That's how you find them. So those two is a minimum. And then an exact match campaign, like if there are some keywords that you really want to be ranked well for, you've done your keyword research and you really feel, hey, this particular keyword I want to be found for, go ahead and test that out. And then a product targeting campaign. So, again, tons of tools out there, but makes it super easy. Helium-10, ASIN X-ray. Use their Chrome extension. You can just download ASINs. There's no excuse not to have at least those 4 campaigns as a minimum. But and then beyond that, once I wouldn't necessarily start with, like, if we're talking about launch, for example, I don't think I would start. I'm saying get brand registered, but I would say get some data under your belt from the sponsored product campaigns before launching like the sponsored brand video or sponsored display campaigns, because those are high visibility, but they're generally more expensive to run. So if you can get some data under your belt first, and then leverage that data to launch those types of campaigns, what keywords or what search terms that you find that generate sales that you can target manually with sponsored brand or sponsored display campaigns. So, but as far as budgets go, that's a whole topic too. I just did a Prime Day video training at the beginning of this month, or end of last month, I should say. And I always basically say there's no set rule. It's when you're launching, especially, it's just don't run out of budget because you're in data collection mode. So the worst thing that you can do is run out of budget and then not have a full data set in order to then optimize everything down. And you can have an idea of how much budget you're going to spend. And you should have that set aside with the thought of, I probably am not going to make any money on this. I might lose this, a couple $1,000 because I'm just collecting data at this point. And then you should figure out pretty quick. It takes about 2 to 3 weeks to know, okay, this is how much I'm going to need on Amazon on a regular basis to put towards my budgets. And then you reallocate. Some campaigns might perform better than other ones, and you start reallocating the budgets. You don't know until you have, the initial campaign structures, and then the data collection for 3 weeks to 4 weeks minimum, and then you have those budgets in mind. And Amazon's done a really good job recently of helping sellers keep track of their budgets. There's a whole tab now dedicated to budgets, so you can just look at, oh, these are all the campaigns that have been running out of budget. Maybe I should look at them and invest more budget. There's budget rules now you can put into each campaign. Granted, those rules are only for increasing the budgets. There's no rule yet to decrease the budget. Like, if it's doing bad, decrease it. Doesn't do that. It's only if it's doing good, increase budgets. But they are putting more budget controls in there. The one thing I want to just say about budgets in general is simply sellers should look at it as just their marketing expense. If you were going to open a store, like a physical store, and it wasn't on a super busy, that didn't have a lot of foot traffic, you're going to need to get people to your store. You're going to need to invest in a billboard or a newspaper or magazine article or a sign on a bench, a bus stop bench. You're going to need to invest money to market your store. So I think far too often sellers don't look at it that way. It's like, this is a line item for your marketing on Amazon. The PPC is your ads. It's your kind of commercial. It's your billboard on the side of the road. You should always be doing that because there's always potentially new shoppers coming on looking for different products. So budget should be kind of like an expense, just a line item on this, in the seller's business. And if they don't make their money back in one particular month, that sometimes that happens. But the longer you do it, the less likely that is going to happen. What I see happening is sellers jump in and they run for a month, which is, again, data collection mode. You're probably not going to make all the sales right away. So they spend, their budget, and they're like, oh, PPC doesn't work. Right, and then they stop. And they're like, no, it takes longer than that. You can't, it's not magic. It's the same as, commercials that you see on the TV. I mean, if people still see commercials, right, you can skip forward through most of them. But the more often you see a commercial, the more often you're going to remember that particular product. And then if you need it, you might remember it and go online and go looking for it. It's the same thing with the PPC ads on Amazon.
Yeah, excellent. And so as you're kind of diving into the budgets and the ad placements, I felt like even then it was hard to kind of mind map and negative keyword filter out just adding a bird campaign and doing all these different
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
Which is why like we recommend normally you leverage software almost
Yeah.
almost immediately to just
Mhm.
it's just worth the cost in my opinion. Uh,
Well, I'll counter that when, because obviously I launched a PPC software. I do think it's important for sellers to actually get into uh, the ads console and figure out the basics of the PPC before they turn on software.
yeah,
Because number one, if they don't do that, they don't understand what the software is doing, and they don't understand the value of the software. So, Helium 10 is primarily, lot of newer sellers, first beginner, 1 to 3 year sellers. And my struggle was trying to get them to understand. I mean, Anatomic is super affordable, right? Like super, super affordable comparatively. But the sellers were like, but it's a few $100s. I'm like,
I
do
remember
you
that.
know how much time,
Yeah,
like what you were saying, like it's going to find the search terms for you that are doing bad. It's going to tell you to make them negative. It's going to find the search terms that are doing good and tell you to, hey, make this a keyword. It's going to increase or decrease the bids for you based on ACOS goals or whatever other parameter you set. But if they haven't gone and done any of that themselves first manually trying to do it, they don't get it.
yeah, totally.
So,
They
so
miss.
I think it's important for sellers to have a basic understanding of launching a campaign, doing keyword bid adjustments, trying to do the negatives, kind of like what you just said. At least that they have a solid understanding of, okay, well, now I know what the software is going to do. Or maybe you hire a consultant or an agency like Trivium. You're like, okay, well, now I know what they're going to be doing. So, they get the value and they're able to kind of double check, right? Like if it's an agency, for example, not software, if you're a brand new seller and you go straight to working with a PPC agency, it's like, well, how do you even know what they're doing? Like you're just taking their word for it. Like I really feel like it's important for sellers to be able to hand things off, right? But that they understand how much time it took them to do it. And then they're like, okay, let this company do it or this software do it. And then I know what to look for. I know what to ask for. I know what to check to see if there's been improvements uh, in the PPC account.
Yeah, totally. Being able to kind of hold them accountable, I guess.
Yeah, yeah.
Exactly.
You can't hold an agency accountable or software really if you have no idea what it's even doing.
Yeah. And then, we talk about PPC software and, the rise of AI and everything like that. How
Mhm.
do AI influencing PPC or, because a lot of the times it's just rule based, if this, then that, right? So how does
Yeah,
quote AI?
yeah. That's AI is loaded to me for PPC. Like for Atomic, for example, like there's some there's some intelligence there, like being able to look at the results of a keyword at a certain bid and saying, okay, was the result good or bad? Okay, if this then increase, if this then decrease. Like that is something that I think is good and okay, and probably going to keep expanding upon with AI, but I still see AI as being really kind of foundational and helpful for like research, like keyword research, potentially. Um, easily translating keywords into different language. So you can target different languages in the same country or a different country. The product detail page. I was at SellerCon, or was it? I was at two conferences over the past couple months, and I literally watched someone use ChatGPT to build out a listing.
Right.
Like they just gave it the correct prompts, told it what to look for, gave him some ASINs to compare it against in Amazon. And then we went and found the ASINs and did the due diligence. And it created a listing within I want to say 5 minutes, 5, 6 minutes.
Yeah.
Um, so that's super powerful. I think that's going to be helpful. Images, like tools like Midjourney and Pebbly Y, I think is the other one. um you know there's not going to be there shouldn't be excuses anymore for people not having lifestyle creative because there is AI out there to help them with that kind of stuff. So I kind of feel like the AI is really really good for listing and the optimization of the listing. There's going to be some functions within PPC to help with, but I kind of feel like it's support roles. um I personally, and of course I'm biased because I'm a PPC consultant, but I wouldn't trust AI to 100% just run budgets. Um, you
Yeah.
know, I don't think we're there yet for it to just completely take the wheel. Um, but definitely there's a lot of functions that AI can help with that will save you tons of time in your overall Amazon business.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with the time aspect of it. I think, when we hear AI, a lot of us, even myself included, want to be like, is that really AI? Kind of like that whole
Mhm.
but at the end of the day, it's like you're leveraging AI software. I call it using AI, and like you said, now the biggest value add is time saved. When I look at a product, if I decide I'm going to get into a product, I used to spend at least a full day looking at every single thing about the product on all social media channels, every type of hashtag, every type of video. I
Yeah.
would take a ton of notes. Um,
Yeah.
I was able to actually build out a prompt. It took me like 5 hours just massaging this prompt over and over and over and over again.
Right.
But I got the prompt to do literally like what used to take me a day, day and a half's worth of work, now spits out that information for me literally within 30 seconds. And it's like 80% of the way there, probably because
Yeah.
it can't really index super deep to the level that
Sure. Yeah.
that I go, but being 80% of the way there, I mean, is literally like 95% of the way there for, the difference between the conversion rate, probably between getting,
Yeah.
80% of the information versus 100% conversion rate being very, very similar. Um,
Yeah. And your time savings. It's like that's amazing. Yeah. So product research is another one that I saw as well. But yeah, I really think that the sellers that do take advantage of AI are gonna they're just gonna be able to do more, right? Because their time is going to be better spent on other areas of e-commerce. Um, so it's the same with software, like PPC software. It is there to help you save time, right? Or an agency or a consultant like me. Like we're here to help you save time. Um, but you still kind of have to understand the basics, I think, before to you understand the value of this prompt now because you know how long it used to take you to do, right? So imagine you trying to sell this prompt to someone who's never done product research. They're going to be like, "Oh, why?"
I want it for free.
Right? Exactly.
Yeah. I'm able for free. Yeah, totally. Yeah, I definitely that rings true. Being able to like understand the fundamentals. It's kind of like one of those things like everybody has a plan till they get hit in the face. I say that a lot because it's like I feel like it's a common experience for entrepreneurs. I'm going to launch this product and I'm going to do this, this, and this. And I feel like the first real hit in the face that sellers get is their paid advertising budget. Just it goes away like
Oh
without
yeah.
having the ROAS. So
Oh yeah.
yeah, learning those principles I think are very, very. And then just other curious if you could give any other like talking points to like to AI and what can be done on a deeper level as it relates to AI, whether it's paid advertising or kind of what you're seeing or what you're thinking of having literally built out one of the most popular PPC
Mhm.
is.
Yeah. I don't know. It's interesting. I've talked to quite a few people recently about this, but I really think that it's really all about figuring out what you do on a daily basis and trying to figure out if AI can help you with that, right? It's like, is there a certain function that you do? Is there a certain way that you research keywords? Like your example, like you had a certain way you were researching products. Like, I really feel like if sellers just kind of figure out what is happening in their day, where's their time going, even if it's 15 minutes a day, like could AI actually help you with whatever that task is? I think that is kind of where it's gonna really be helpful, and not just business, but like personal life too, like your shopping list or figuring out. Somebody was telling me that they use their Chat GPT to they're trying to do keto and they have a bunch of keto stuff in their fridge and they basically said, but I didn't know what to do with it. So they asked every single week they asked Chat GPT to come up with recipes for the week based on what's in their fridge. Uh, like genius. How much time is that saving you from thinking about, oh crap, what am I going to make today? And I have to do
Yeah.
this and I have to, I'm going to go online. I'm going to look for a recipe and, um, potentially a couple hours a week saved just by doing things like that. So I've said it before, but I think the AI is going to be super helpful just in time savings. Um, and the people that really leverage it and understand it, they're just going to have so much more free time, personal, business, whatever, to focus on the things that really are going to either drive their business forward or give them more time to travel, Um, so that's kind of where I see. It's not one thing I kind of can point towards. Um, I do think though that there are tools out there. I saw an example. I like to give an example of AI that people can use right now for their videos. And it's a little ingenious, but I think, but you can use YouTube right now. So let's say you've got videos and you've created them, you've done them, but you don't know what the thumbnail should be, or you don't know what the highlight of the video is. Well, you could just, even if you're not going to fully upload it into YouTube, you could just go to YouTube, start uploading the video, and then before you actually hit submit, YouTube will let you know 3 different frames, right, of what it thinks the thumbnail should be. So YouTube has AI, and that AI is basically looking through your entire video and it's saying, hey, this is the one that's going to create the most response from viewers. So that's your thumbnail, and that becomes the image of you can use that. Maybe you move that whole section up further up in your video to engage people. So that's something simple that I think people that can do that already have videos. They just want to figure out, hey, what's the most it's called heat mapping. Like what's got the most heat in my video. You can actually just leverage an existing tool that everyone has access to right now. There are literally services out there you can pay to do what I just said, or you can just use YouTube and pretend like you're going to upload a video.
Use whatever's easiest. I like the idea, like just getting like kind of culturally adopted to using it as. I feel like only really now in the last like 4 or 5 years do people like naturally Google things when they have a question, but
Yeah.
it gets to like it has to get to a certain point before it pings them. They're like, oh, I don't know where this is. Let me Google it, or
Right.
And I remember literally when I was in the military in 2008, I was in charge of giving briefings, like medical briefings. And
Mhm.
it was a bunch of medical things I didn't understand because I was just a technician. And and then I had the first person underneath me, and she was asking me a bunch of questions that neither of us were trained on, and the boss ahead of me wasn't trained on. But I was deep into Google then, so I just kept saying Google it to the point where I literally wrote it on top of on like my whiteboard. And then my friend would come in, she'd be like, "What's going on?" And I'd like point to the thing, and she'd Google it, and she ended up with like a best answer, and ended up kind of
Yeah.
like going around the office of like Googling it. This is like 2007, 2008. So I
Yeah.
feel now like the sooner that we kind of retrain our minds towards let's let's chat GPT-3, or let's AI it to like get some support, maybe not make a decision for us, but at least the one thing I like is they say it's like having the smartest person in the room with you all the time. So for
Right.
what I've done is I've downloaded chat GPT-3 to my mobile phone. It's like on the first page I'm asking questions, and one thing I feel like it's giving me a ton of value is my prompts. I try to make them at least like 8 or 9 sentences, unless it's something super.
Mhm.
And I feel
Mhm.
like tense my prompt is like, hey, like tell me about PPC. What are the number 3 things I need to learn for a beginner? What are the answers to those questions? And explain it in this, and this. What are the top KPIs? How does that relate to the overall process? Something like that. And just
Mhm.
and then asking the question, I ended up getting like a lot more information up front and able to make kind of quicker decisions. So what I'm trying to do is integrate that into my team and my virtual assistant, the VAs, and everything we're doing there. So I feel like a lot of people will say we're getting our team to work on it, but I look online, I look at all the prompts, like the LinkedIn. Here's 5,000 prompts, or here's this software tool with all these different copywriting objectives, and
Yeah.
all that output is very generic and very basic. And I think it's
Mhm.
the the prompts that are used to massage that input, or whatever results in that output. So for me, it's been like you said, right on the nail, like just integrating that deeper into my life.
Mhm.
My little tip for others is to just try and give it more, ask the right question. Yes.
Yeah, it's a simple thing. Instead of Googling it, try chat GPTing it.
Totally.
That's the that's the easy way to get into the AI, is thinking it from that perspective. Of course, you have to ask different questions. Like you said, you have to ask much deeper questions when you're using ChatGPT than Google. But no, I think that's a smart way to get into it for sure.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's been pretty exciting so far to see some of the outputs. Um, okay, yeah. So I guess to kind of wrap up here, you know, with your background in paid advertising, I know you offer the consults here for PPC and the work you're
Mhm.
doing with Trivium as well. We had Mina here on a previous podcast. You know, if you could kind of leave us with like one tip or one or two tips for sellers, maybe it's from like a mental perspective on what they should be doing when it comes to paid advertising, and
Mhm.
they should engage professional help.
Yeah. Yeah. So we already kind of covered, like, know the basics before you try to hand it off, like, to, a consultant like me or an agency like Trivium. I think it's super important to actually have a really good, solid understanding of what that is. And that includes, my second tip, which I've kind of already alluded to, is don't be afraid of the PPC budgets. Like, understand, what your break even A cost is and what your target A cost should be, what leveraging tacos means, total A cost, like understand those metrics to really kind of gauge the overall success of your PPC versus just looking at PPC in a silo. Like, PPC is not there to make PPC sales. PPC sales is to affect all of your sales, right? Because the more ads you have, the more organic ranking is potentially going to improve. And it's there to be your little commercial. People might come back and they might see your organic listing and click on that, but if they didn't see your commercial first, they might not have remembered you to click on your organic ad. Like, you don't know, but we do know when we do see PPC spend drop, even on highly organic ranked keywords, the organic rank starts to fall back, does start to drop. So we know that there's a link. So, use that, consider that when you're looking at your budgets and you're looking at your PPC spend. Take your total sales, your tacos definitely into account. Um, Lastly, I think that people can leverage, we've been talking about creative and videos and things. Look at your data. Like, you could do the best research possible and have the best videos out there, but if you look at your data and your search terms that are making sales, and you see that there's a feature that you're seeing a lot of sales and it's calling out a particular feature of your product, make sure you look at that and say, okay, I know that if I put that feature to the forefront, or maybe even worse, maybe you don't even have that feature in your video or your creative, right? Add it. Whatever that feature is, make sure it's prevalent, make sure it's at the beginning, and launch campaigns specific to those search terms that have generated sales, or those keywords that have generated sales. So leverage. PPC isn't static. You should be looking at it as a reference point, looking at it. Yes, you do all your keyword research, which you should do, but there's going to be other search terms that are going to create sales. There's going to be things in there that if you don't go in there and look at it, you'll never know. And I guess my point is, leverage your PPC data, look at what is selling, update your backend keyword page. Sometimes you need to do that. Like, look at what your backend keyword page is. That shouldn't be a static thing either. Like, yeah, you did your keyword research ahead of time, you fully optimized it SEO, but every few months, actually look at what is selling, what keywords are selling. Is that in your backend keyword page? And maybe try updating it. Maybe that will help you rank obviously higher for that keyword. Organically, you're going to get more sales, not just PPC from that particular term. So that's my last kind of tip, is just leverage your PPC data for other data points in other areas of your business that you can apply it to.
Absolutely great. I literally absolutely love that last piece of advice. Not being static. I feel like we optimize a listing, then people forget. Then 6 months later, it's like, oh, if I just did this on the back end, there would have been
Yep.
money. But Amazon's always evolving the competitive
Always,
landscape.
always evolving. They're always changing the backend keyword page too. They're
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
they're moving things, and they're adding subject matter. They're taking away subject matter. They're
Yeah.
constantly changing things. So you should be looking at not just your PPC account, but like, check in on your backend page as well, and make sure that is up to date with whatever latest change Amazon might have done.
Okay. Yeah. We'll definitely put that for the advice for other PPC beginners and even some experts out there don't even do that. Uh,
Mhm.
So yeah, thank you so much, Vince, for coming on the show. We'll link down to your contact information if everybody wants to reach out, get in contact with you or Trivium. And yeah,
Perfect.
we appreciate you coming on the show.
Sounds good. Thanks, Reggie.
Thank you.